Okay, welcome everyone to the ServiceNow store. There was some mic issue. Hopefully you guys can hear us now. Let us know if you guys can hear us. Hello everyone and welcome to the ServiceNow store. On today's episode, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the top 10 ServiceNow business rule tips and tricks. These are my own tips and tricks. You may not find them maybe in the documentation or in the community, but these are my I came it through my experience from 5 years ServiceNow experience. So I'm gonna go ahead and share that with you guys. It's part of my community development. It's free, you don't need to pay anything. If you like this video, you can consider subscribing to our YouTube channel so that you can get new episodes straight come to your inbox. Welcome everyone. For those of you maybe new to my channel, this is Mohammed Rashid Kamal, ServiceNow star. You can find some of important contents on ServiceNow area, on AI, artificial intelligence, and some other topics, including augmented reality. You can find them all those in ServiceNowStar.com. That's a website. You can go ahead and check it out. Also, you can connect to me here in LinkedIn, or you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to get new episodes come straight to you. Without any delay, let's go ahead and start talking about the business rule, right? So before that, here I'm going to show you my developer instance. You can see right here, it's welcoming me by name. And you can see that there are buttons to start building. That's where we're going to start. Okay, we're going to start building right there. But before that, let's talk a little bit about the version that we are going to work on today. It's a Quebec. Yes, that's the current version in ServiceNow here in 2021. So that's the new and current instance that we have here. What I have is a Quebec. That's the version that we have in ServiceNow. It's recently released by the ServiceNow Quebec. It was Paris, and I upgraded my instance directly to Quebec. So we are on the latest and the greatest of the ServiceNow, which is the Quebec. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the business rule tips and tricks straight in the ServiceNow PDI, Personal Developer Instance, so that no confusion can happen here. I'm not going to show you those boring slides or reading through the documentation, but I'm going to show you live here in the ServiceNow instance. So the first thing what we're going to do is by clicking Start Building, we're going to go ahead and will directly take us to the ServiceNow instance. And let's give it a few seconds. It's gonna go ahead and load, and we're gonna go ahead and start some of the tips and tricks in ServiceNow. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ServiceNow Start. Today is May 16, Sunday, May 16. Welcome everyone. So it's a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. It started a little bit of cloudy, and now it's partly cloudy. It was cloudy, now partly cloudy and sunny. Welcome. It's beautiful here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. It's loading a little bit. So now let's just go ahead and talk a little bit about the ServiceNow UI component. As you can see right here where I sit, you can find that the application navigator. On top of the application navigator, you can find the logo right there, the ServiceNow logo at the top. That's we call it the banner. So in the banner, you can find the user information who is logged in there. If you would like to impersonate, you can also find the way to impersonate on the banner as well. All right. As always, best practice, whenever you do your application, make sure you are on the correct update set. Update set is just nothing where you can collect whatever development you are doing in a location where you can keep it, so that you can move it from one instance to the other instance, from one instance of ServiceNow to another instance of ServiceNow. You might be working with your client, for example, and your client might have 3 environments, one production and the rest is sub-production, like the dev instance and also the test instance where you can test your work. So in a time like that, if you are working in an update set in your dev instance, so it's going to be easy for you to move that change directly to your test instance. From your test instance, literally you can move it to your production instance, brothers and sisters. It's just passing that good information here as a general best practice when you are working in ServiceNow. And the other important thing is make sure you are on the correct application. All right. So your application, you might be in the global application, or you might be in a different scoped application. So wherever you do in your application, let's say before you start creating a business role, you need to make sure that in which application you're going to do it. Is this going to be in the global? Is this going to be in a specific? So make sure you're doing that. And by the way, business rule is a server-side script. So when you think of creating some service-side business logic, server-side business logic, you should primarily think of business rule, because using business rule you can do several things. So we're gonna go ahead and dive in directly into one of the business rule, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you what are the types of business rule, and also when to use them, how to use them, and what are some examples. Brothers and sisters, let's go ahead and dive deep here under the business rule. Business. So like I said, it is a server-side script. It's a server-side script. It's not a client-side. It is executing in the backend. So it's a server-side script. So once I write business, and here, business rule, it's going to come up with system definition, and you'll have business rules. So all the business rules that you have in your system will show up here. If you go directly to the system definition, then business rule. Once you go to system definition and business rule, you will have all your business rules gonna display. Now let's go ahead and take a look at here. What I would do before I create a business rule, what I would do usually is I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at what are there, some of the out-of-the-box business rule. Okay, you might have a business rule that's already out there and could be inactive. Okay, could be inactive. So you might need to take a look at some of the business that you have. Then here within this business rule, I hope you guys can see it, my screen here, there is a name, the first column. Okay, you got here a name. Those are the name for the business rule. What is the name of the business rule? Is it the display, fulfiller UI and Q, and GDD, tool name and page name validation? See, validation. So primarily business rule, like I said, it's a backend operation. So you are working on the database of the ServiceNow. So where you keep your record. A good example is, let's say you got an incident record, right? An incident database in ServiceNow. So if you would like to make any change, okay, to your record, could be an update or a delete or an insert to your ServiceNow instance table, incident table, you can go ahead and definitely use a business rule. Good example, let's say display business rule. So when a user try to log into a ServiceNow instance, once they logged in, right, a given if this on an incident form, it will display a form, right? It will display a form when they click create new. It will display a form. So now this form will do some business operation before it gets displayed for the user. So those types of business rule we call them display business rule. Now, here is, in order to create a business rule, the first thing is we need to give it a very good name that can describe what that business rule really means. Okay, you need to give it a name, very good, understandable name. Because of here, the most important tips and trick here is in ServiceNow, repeatability. Or when you do some work, you need to, in the future, like if you wanna scalability, when you scale your project in the future, sometimes you might remove your business rule, or you might replace your business rule with some other functionality. Let's say you got a functionality right now and that doesn't have what you want, right? But in the future release, if that functionality came through the out of the box, so you don't need to create a custom work right there. So if anything you customize it before you created a custom work, you might need to replace them with the out of the box. In the future it might come through the out of the box. So documentation is very important. It's very important when you think about improvement, project improvement in the future. So now We need to give it a very good name, something that is really understandable in what it would do. It is like making a change while you're displaying, or when you're inserting a record, or updating a record, or it is about deleting a record. So we need to give it that. And here is an important, it's a table. So what table is going to apply? Like I said, business rule, it's a server side. It's a server side work, and you need to specify what the table is exactly is. So that is very important to specify. Very, very important. So we need to say that what table is going to apply. Is this going to be on the incident table? Is it going to apply or in some other table? So we need to specify. So if I go ahead and click under the table, you might go ahead and see a number of tables going to come up. So that's another important thing to right. We need to go ahead and wait. Yes. And the other important thing here is active. It's already active is already checked. So now here we have tables in ServiceNow. So tables in ServiceNow. So one of the table, for example, access control. Access control itself has a table called sys_security_ACL. So if you're going to create a business rule that's going to apply in the access control specifically, you need to go ahead and specify the name of the table just right there. Brothers and sisters, yes, we are doing the demo and the discussion, all those cool stuff right here in a single episode, so that you can understand all in the tips, the tricks, all the functionality, all the basic understanding of what a business rule is in this 1 hour video. So now once we select the table here, that's a very important, selecting the table, because you don't need to apply the business rule in a table where you don't want it. So you need to apply in the table that you are specifically working on. So once we do that, like I said, active is already selected. And and the other thing here is important thing, the application, it is in global, because when I open my business rule, I was in the global application, and it's exactly where my application should stay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and reload. I'll go ahead and show you very quick an important thing here. Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and get sip of water. All right, here is a $5 question. A $5 question. Now I was working on the global application earlier, and then it's not editable. I mean, it's read only. Now it's say active directed. Who can tell me how this change happened? Okay. Now it was the application, it was global earlier, and when I changed something, now it changes to an active directed. You can tell me. We're just gonna pause for 30 seconds so that you guys gonna think. It seems like that 30-second is over. Now let's go ahead and answer this question. Perfect. Now, like I said earlier at the beginning, one of the tips and tricks in general tips and tricks in ServiceNow, when you log into your instance, okay, it could be your PDI, personal developer instance, or it could be your client instance, right, where you're working on client environment. So now when you log in, you need to make sure you are on the correct update set. That's very important, the update set where you capture your change. And the second, very important, is you need to be on the correct application. Like I said, which application are you working on? Are you working on the global application, or are you working on specific scoped application? So what I have done right now was, earlier I started with the global application, and I just want to show you how we can quickly change that one by going to a given application, and this application is already auto-populated by the application that where you are. Now I am on Active Directory and it's automatically changed. Okay, so the Active Directory or the AD, so it's already automatically populated. And the other tips and trick, here we go. The preview record is gonna give you the pop-up. So now if I go ahead and click, it's gonna give me a little bit of information about the Active Directory, what it is. Okay, yes. So now let's move on, brothers and sisters. Let's move on. So that's another tips and tricks. Let's continue. Now we talked about the tables, very important. We talked about the table, very important. We talked about the application, is very important. And also active is already checked. When you create a brand new business rule, active checkbox, it's already checked. And the other here is advanced. So if you would like to create a business rule that has some script, you can go ahead and check the advanced button. So the advanced button, when you check that one, you'll see that a new section will display. That's called advanced. So where you can write some script over there, a server-side script. So where you can write this first server-side script right here, function executes rule. There's current and previous, and whatever script you want to apply is you're going to go ahead and apply. But in this case, just tips and tricks. We're gonna continue. We're gonna go ahead and learn so many tips here in the business rule. And now let's scroll up in a little bit and when to run. These are the 3 most important sections of the business rule. Okay, we talked about the table name, specifying the table name. We talked about advanced. When you check the advanced checkbox, you'll have a new section is gonna display. What we call it advanced, where you can write script. Okay, active is already checked, and there's another important one, is the application. The application is going to tell you which application you are working on, whether you are working on the global or any scoped application. Just right here we are on the Active Directory application. All right, now when to run. That's the most important part of the business rule. When to run, you need to specify your business rule when it's going to execute. All right, we already say that it's a server-side script, but when to run is very important. So now when to run, so by default it's before. Okay, if you are asked one of the interview question or one of the ServiceNow certification question is that if you want to create a ServiceNow business rule, what is the default state for when that business rule is going to execute? It's before. Okay, before a given thing is going to happen. So before business rule. All right, now we have 4 types of business rule right here. Right, we have 4 types of business rule. The first one is a before business rule, and we have got the after business rule, and async business rule, and display business rule. So these business rules are really, really important. Okay, so when we talk about before business rule, this is a business rule that can execute before. All right, so now let's see from bottom to the top, the display business rule. What is the display business rule? There's a code that you written, okay, in your code. Let's say you write an XYZ information box when only the data is related to that user specific country, okay, is going to display. This is a display business rule. What does that mean? Let's say you have got a user and that user has a different location, like your company user has different locations. Some of them are in Asia, North America, Africa. So a user from Africa, when he's going to log in to their instance, the ServiceNow instance, they need to see a data, right? Let's say if they go to their problem, or if they go to their incident, they need to see a data, they need to see a form, right? So the display, we are setting some business rule there. Is going to execute when a given form is displayed. Right? We have got selected the table name. When that table is displayed, it will show, as an example, like I say, location, okay, or row. It could be a role as well. Let's say you got a role. of an admin. You got a role of an IT role. So whenever a user with an IT role, when they logged in, just display certain information, just display certain record. See, that's what's a good practical example that we can mention in related to the display business rule. So that's it's primarily working on the database of the ServiceNow. Like I said, the database of the ServiceNow. So the database of the database of the ServiceNow. When it's displayed, it's gonna show that. So when it comes to the before business role, which is where we have the out of the box without any configuration or without any change, the default is when it's going to run a given business rule is before. What does that mean? It's executed when the user submit the form. Okay, before. When the user submit the form, it's gonna execute the before business rule. And what it does mean, the data is not yet saved. Before it is saved, before that data is saved in the database, it's gonna make some change, right? So that's why we call it the before business rule. Before business rule. After and before, it's very easy to understand, like again. So before user submit a record. User submit a record before it hit the database and got a record or got a save, we are making some change, or we are making a change to another related record. You might have parent-child relationship, and whereas a parent's record is submitted by a user, we might have a child record where we might gonna go ahead and close it. Okay, or we might gonna go ahead and open things like that. Okay, let's say you have a written code that when a user click on a submit button, and you might do some extra information that are not filled by the user, such as the user might forgot the location, or the user may not put their correct password, like the appropriate field XYZ record. So that's the before business rule is really important. Before it hit the database, it's just gonna check on the form that the user is submitting, and that way we are making sure that we're getting the clean data from the user. Good. All right. So things like a number of examples we can mention here under before business rule, like a user might be submitting, right, a record and might be forgetting some information when they submitted, they didn't fill up. So the before business rule are executed, and it's gonna show up all those that cool information. Now we have covered the display business rule, and also we have covered the before business rule. What about the after business rule? So the after business rule is very I think we talked about that. The after business rule, once the business rule is submitted, once the form, the user send the record. Let's say you got an incident record and you send that incident record, and that incident record is sent, then that business rule will execute once the user is submitted the form. Okay, and once that it is recorded in the database. Okay, once it is recorded in the database. So after your record is written in the database, you submitted the form, or you submitted a given record, the after business rule will execute once that record is written in the database or inserted into the database. Then after that, an execution will happen. Like I said, a good example in this case could be when that is already saved in the database, you might do some operations like closing a child incident, or you might close the task as well when that happens. That kind of work could be possible to do using the after business rule. The before business rule, like I said, before that record is saved in the database, it will execute. Okay, but the after business rule, it is after submitted record is saved into the ServiceNow database, right? What about the async? It's a very important one. So when you talk about the async business rule, it is executed right up there. So it's asynchronously. When you talk about async, it's like the business rule, but it's run in the background simultaneously. Okay, asynchronously means, async means like synchronously. So async, asynchronously or simultaneously it will happen. I'm gonna go ahead and check if we have any comments or suggestions that we got from the community. We have got 4 people are right now watching us. Welcome everyone for joining us. This is Mohammed Rashid Kamal live from the ServiceNow store. We are live here from the Washington DC, sharing some of the top 10 tips and tricks on the ServiceNow business rule. We have covered a number of important key features in the ServiceNow business rule. Some of them include talking about the table, very important, the field active, and also the advanced. And now we are talking about when to run, a very important part of the business rule. We need to specify when that business rule runs. So it's very important before you write a business rule, you need to understand when that's going to execute. Is it before business rule executes, before that record is saved into the database, after you sending a record and that record is saved into the database, it's going to execute after that and we'll have some cascade. And when you talk about async, it is going in the background. So asynchronously, it is happening asynchronously. And when you talk about the display business rule, this business rule primarily happens when a given form or a given user is logged in, and it will execute while the user is trying to access, let's say, a list of incidents. When you try to access a list of incidents, it might display a list of incidents that have a location of XYZ, or a list of incidents that has a manager of something. Okay, so those are the 4 types of business rule, and it's very important to understand when these business rules run. So understanding when this business rule run will really help you to create the best business rule that will help and achieve your requirements. Yes. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on a little bit, and we can move on. So we talked about the types of business rule, when to. Right, and here is also the types of business rule, when those gonna happen. And also what you're going to do here is inserting, or you might be updating, or you might doing is deleting a record. Okay, so this is when is going to execute. When. One important thing here to mention is that I think if you guys have a web development experience, you might be aware or you may know about the CRUD operation. We call it the CRUD, create, update, delete, post. So the CRUD operation is a server side, right? In SQL, it's a server side script, and you can do updating a record or creating a record using a SQL statement, right? So same thing here you can do using the ServiceNow business rule. So here you are doing a business rule, and this business rule might do an insert to a record, or it might updating a record as well, updates, or it might delete, or it might query. Like I said, for example, am I gonna go ahead and query a given database to display based on location, based on a manager, when a given user is logging, or when a given user submit a form? So query and deletes, or I might go ahead and delete a record. So you can check one of the 4, and none of them are here checked, so you need to go ahead and select one of them. Perfect. So this is about when to run. And what about the action? What did the action really mean? This says the field value. So right here, this section specifically about the action of the business rule that you wrote here, that specifies the field value using your selected field value for your choice list. Let's say you might have a choice list and you want to show some action, right? So you can set it here by setting the field value. And when you do that, you can add a message as well, or you can also abort actions. Very simple. Just gonna go ahead and check that. You can abort the action, or also you can do a message. So to a value determined by the options available for that value. And also if you put the same as value, it take from another field. If you put the same as value, it will take from another field. And it could be a dynamic. This value relatively to the user's configuration of the business rule or the user with a specific role. Like I said, the last section here is the advanced. So the advanced section, like I said, if you want to do some more activity using robust work with your business rule, you can go ahead and add some business rule, and this business rule script is definitely gonna run in the server side. So here is the function execute rule. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the top 10 tips and tricks while we are using the ServiceNow business rule. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take you to one of the business rule, which is the out of the box. I'm gonna go ahead and show you that. We can go ahead and talk about a little bit practically, and we're gonna conclude our episode. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take you here practically. I was talking earlier about aborting an action. All right, let's go ahead and open this one. This is a business rules about aborting action if no license type. Okay, if you do not put a license type, like I said, what was I saying earlier at the beginning of this video? I was saying that you need to write the best. You need to be specific and clear the name of the business rule that you are going to give it. Okay, that is very important. And now I'm going to change my application to the global because this business rule is in the global application, so that I can be able to make a change to it. Okay, but that's the most important thing. And now this business rule has a name. It's saying that abort action if no license type. In your form, okay, on a table called software model, okay, there is a table called software model, and if you didn't select the license type, you cannot be able to send that form. Okay, it will abort you. You might have some selected value. You see, so here is the message. You say add error message here, giving you that the error message select a valid license type. So what did this business rule do is you might be asked to create a business rule. I mean, your requirement might not specify saying that, hey, create a business rule, but it might come just like this. Hey, go ahead. I have a form. Okay, I have a form. It's called software model form. And I don't want this form to be submitted without the user specifying the license type. Okay, let's say a user may be requesting a license without specifying the license type. This could happen if you don't have a mandatory check on it. This could happen. So in that time, because the reason why very important here is operations could happen in different way. Could be a REST operation there, or through API. You might doing it through another integrated application. So that's why you need to put this business rule, so it can abort the function. It can abort the request right there. So what these do here, like I said, has a very good name. Now we can give it 10 out of 10. All right, because it got a very good name, a very descriptive, short and precise. It's just telling us what it's going to do. Aborting an action if no license type, period. That's it. We don't need to write this business rule is gonna do blah blah blah. It's a waste of time. So you need to be precise, short and precise. It is active and it's an advanced as well. Perfect. That means there is a section advanced here and has also a script. Now let's move on to the first section, when to run. When this going to run? Before. What does that mean? We just talked about, right, the types of business rule. What is before means? Before this business rule is before this form, which is the software model form, is submitted from the user, and before it's gonna go ahead and record it into the database, this business rule is gonna execute. It's gonna check a sanity check. Did the user submit the software type? If not, oh, boom, aborted. Hey, you need to submit. You need to specify the software type. If not, you cannot submit this form. Oh, the user is gonna say, oh, what is the software type? Oh, is it SaaS? What is the software type? Is it a Microsoft? Is it Google? You see? Yes, we are asking, we are getting the right information from the user before they submitting it into garbage in, is garbage out. So business rule is really important to prevent any garbage that gonna come to your instance, all right, to your record, to your so if you get a jug that without a software type, and you might need that software type to specify, it could be the price, it could be the security risks. You see, all those things are really linked. So now, so by writing this business rule every time, software model table. Now, we're gonna go ahead and open a software model table. We're gonna try practically if it's gonna happen or not, right? And it's gonna happen before, right? And then there are two situations that's gonna happen here. Is another interview question. Put this one in your interview question or your ServiceNow application development question. Okay, you have got it before. Is it possible to select more than one, like insert, update, delete, or query? Yes, definitely. Okay, this business rule could run when you insert. That means when you are inserting. Inserting means when you are creating a new record. Let's say a new record of software model. Yes, this business rule is gonna execute. Or you might already have one software model form. That means the user already created. It is a list of software model you might have. And if you want to go ahead and update that, and if you forgot to add the software type, again, this business rule is going to execute before you updating that. And it will tell you that, hey, you need to specify the software type. Yes. And here are the cool thing here, the filter condition again. So we don't have any filter condition on this case, but the most important thing here is the action. What is the action here? We're not doing anything because we are using the advanced. So in the advanced section, we are giving an error message here. Okay, we are adding error message. And GS.get message, we are getting the message code. Select a valid license type, and current dot set abort action to true. If we are setting to false, might be able to submit, but we're setting it to true so that we can abort this action and the user need to submit by adding the software type. Another important thing here is the condition. So this condition is very important. You don't need to apply this business rule blanketly. So here, what are some of the things? Current dot. So current indicating that in your form, whatever form you have, right there is telling you that the license type dot license type field equals what? Empty. When it is empty, if you have a license type that is empty, or current dot license type dot query field. Okay, when you query the license type, okay, it has empty, either this or this, and current dot license type dot nil. Okay, if it is not, so this means that we have the exclamation mark current dot license type is nil, so it's not nil. All right, so that is what it is. Very simple business rule, and it's really help us to get the right information from the user. So in this business scenario, we have a table called software model. We can go ahead and open that model, software model. That's gonna be the next thing we can go ahead and check. So under the software model, just right there, I'm gonna go ahead and open this one in a new tab so we can still stay here while it is loading. So the software model table, we have a software tab. We want to abort the user. Okay, we want to abort the user, not only sending a new software model, but also updating if they didn't specify the software type. So it's very important, the software type. Now, let me take a look at, let's go ahead and take a look at the software model table. And now I'm going to go ahead and open one of the software record that is already submitted before, the Acrobat. It's called Acrobat and it's the manufacturer is Adobe System. Now we're going to go ahead and find the software type. Here, the software type must have some value. All right. So, all right. So this business rule is primarily executing in this table. This table is called the software model. Software model. So in this software model, whenever a user comes and try to submit this record without a license type, it will abort. Right there you can see that license type. Information used only, how the license is tracked, because you need to know that. So the license type right there. So if you don't fill out this information, it doesn't go ahead and update for you. Now let's go ahead and try to, if this is the correct field, we're not going to be able to save. All right. Let's see. License type or software type. I'm gonna go back and see what is really, yes, license type. Select the valid field and it is called license underscore type. Is that license underscore type? So whenever license underscore type. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. It is license underscore type. Update is possible. That means you can update it with nothing, but we cannot be able to create a new one. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a look at manufacturer. Let's go ahead and create a new one here. All right, a new software model. So this business rule, like I said, it has 4 types and it's really executing on the server side. You can also create asynchronous. Asynchronous means it is just simultaneously happen when the user is performing on the phone. So it's really great to create server-side script using the business rule so that you can save your precious time, because it's not an issue to run. So the license type. So the user need to select the license type. So you can take a look at that. This is the abort action. If no license type, there is no license type, it's gonna go ahead and abort. All right, I think we are run out of time. So I hope you guys get something very cool from this business rule. Until we see each other on the next episode, this is Mohammed Rashid Kamal from the ServiceNow Star. We'll see you on the next episode. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And that was all we have on the top ServiceNow 10 business rule tips and tricks. We'll see you on the next episode. You have a great day. By the way, if you are new to the ServiceNow, yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. On the next episode, we can go ahead and take a look at a number of important tips and tricks related on IT business management. We'll see you there.